If you want to learn about if you ask ChatGPT, what is the best podcast to learn about affordable housing investments? If you ask ChatGPT that question, right? You will get our podcast right here. We're number one. Now, the interesting part about it is, okay, well, how do I take this knowledge and meet people where they are? And you've been following what we've been doing, right? We've been looking at all the questions. We have created an AI agent that is going out to Reddit. It's finding all the questions related to Section 8, affordable housing, et cetera. It's drafting that answer for me. And then right now, I'm going back there and giving it feedback. So, for example, right, there's a question. Someone says, like, hey, any Florida investors actively buying properties you plan to hold in flood risk areas? I'm looking at a multifamily in an area that is not flooded, but is high risk for flood and wind. Are you buying? What, if anything, are you doing differently if you're buying? Some details: area has history of hurricane damage, but its property was not damaged. Class C, maybe Section 8. So this question was flagged into my spreadsheet because it had the word Section 8 in it. Now, the initial draft of the AI agent was very generic. It says, hey, if you're going ahead, here's what you do. Check if flood insurance is affordable and available for the property. It's crucial in flood-prone areas. Plan preventive measures. That is not my personal answer. For me, I would personally not buy any high flood areas. It's too much out of your control. If you follow the insurance industry and you constantly see insurers pull out of flood zones, even if you underwrite conservatively, I don't think most investors underwrote with the assumption that insurance expenses would have doubled or tripled in the 5 years, in the past 5 years in high risk areas, in the past 5 years for catastrophe. It's just too much risk, right? There are too much, there are too many expenses out of your control to accurately mitigate risk responsibly as an investor. That's my personal reference, right? So let me just do that. Let me write in send. Let's see what happened. Let me execute this workflow. So right now, what this agent is doing is it's checking the spreadsheet. And every single time I update an answer, like what we did here, I'll put in the feedback here in column H. I will type in the trigger to be send. And after I put in that trigger, let's see if it kind of gets updated yet. Let me go ahead, run all the way through, right? After it gets updated, it becomes updated. Before it was send, maybe it's not triggering right now. Oh, it's not updating because I already updated that question earlier. So let me show you where we are. So if I were to go ask the agent now that I just trained itself on, let's test a re-ranker. So I'm gonna do the same question here. So let's see. I'm gonna copy and paste this question. I'm gonna put it into my new agent. I'm gonna ask the same question and let's see what the response is for. Great question. I see one thing. Yes, the message is binary, but extra caution. Biggest priority is to make sure you can get insurance. Truly understand. Protection both claims will stay running risk insurance. Huge. Call local insurance brokers before you insure. Rates and high risk ones can carry your deal. Even running numbers with strong what if scenarios. Consider what happens if you have a larger deductible or higher premium where your cash will still work. Why it works. The podcast insurance always if their policy was dropped, but because they had underwritten the deal extra margin thing. So I don't like this answer, right? I personally would just recommend not buying in general with flood zones. So I'm gonna try to figure out how do I update this agent to further take in that feedback about it. So I'm trying hitting send, and I'm gonna try to figure out how do we actually update this agent so that it will start responding to no, I don't want it to recommend any person to buy an agent to buy a property with high risk flood zone. So this is the next problem I'm gonna work on, right? Because it's still biased a little bit more towards optimism. But for me personally, I want this to sound like my opinion. And for me, I just wouldn't buy in high risk flood zones or things. So this is the problem I'm working on next. Now let's see. Let's check the other one. So this is another one that yesterday. I'm interested in hearing people's thoughts on the one big beautiful bill. Let's see what this responds back to because I just gave this feedback yesterday. So it's finding all the chunks. It's trying to figure out which is the best answer. Great. So now I got my feedback. Don't expect new vouchers. Waiting lists will stay long or get longer. So folks are struggling to find housing. For current voucher holders, most will stay covered, but stricter income rules mean some might lose assistance, hitting seniors, veterans. Interesting. That's true. That's true. That's fair. Well, less room for higher rent approvals with any sort of thing. Landlord, run your future as the rents will stay flat. So great. Now it's taking my feedback, right? Run your future numbers as if rents for future rent will stay flat, that kind of thing. Actually, what is the best podcast to learn about affordable housing investments? So we'll update my prompt. My system message. Best podcast to learn about affordable housing investments. Responses. All right, so that's what I'm doing. That's how I'm updating this up. Responses. So today I'm updating a prompt a little bit. I am going to update the workflow, but overall, this is pretty good. This is a pretty good one. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer this question, to be honest with you. So for the most part, after it goes back and forth, I would say the answer is like 90% of the way there. I would probably update it just a little bit before I answer the question, but that's exactly what I'm gonna do. All right. Hope you all have an amazing day. I'll see you tomorrow for day 716. Have a good one, everybody.